tell me, when your knee is throbbing, like keeping you awake at 2 a.m., do you immediately think about your gut microbes? Or, I don't know, how well your liver made bile yesterday, the efficiency of your internal protein factory? No, of course not. You're probably just reaching for the biggest bottle of pain reliever you can find.
And that's really the issue, isn't it? We treat the pain like it's just there, a local problem. But what we're diving into today is this hidden communication line, systemic. We want to show you that chronic joint pain, osteoarthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, even gout, it's not just wear and tear. Not really. It's more like a dramatic cellular breakdown, and it's linked directly to what you eat and these surprising signals from your gut.
Right. Our mission today is to kind of give you that aha moment, the thing that might actually resolve the whole joint issue. Because the solution isn't just about, padding the joint. It's about fixing the tiny internal factory that maintains the cartilage.
Exactly. To fix the problem, you have to understand the architect of the joint, the chondrocyte. This is the cell, the only cell really, that creates and maintains your cartilage. If the cell is happy, your joints are probably happy. If it's stressed, well, that's when things start breaking down.
Deep inside this little architect cell, there's this internal factory. It's got a fancy name.
The endoplasmic reticulum, or just ER.
Right, the ER. But its job is critical. Think of it like the main assembly line inside the cell. Its big job is folding proteins into the right shape, like folding thousands of tiny paper airplanes so they actually fly, mess up the fold.
And the protein is useless. Or worse, it causes problems. And this is key. Researchers consistently find that joint inflammation often starts when this assembly line gets overwhelmed, stressed out. We call it ER stress, inside the chondrocyte. This really changes the game because the whole inflammatory cascade seems to kick off right there in the folding factory, often before other damage, like to the mitochondria, even shows up. So the root problem: a stressed out, malfunctioning repair department.
Okay, and if that wasn't enough drama for one tiny cell part, the ER also has this crucial side job, right? Storing calcium.
That's right. So if the protein factory is stressed and overwhelmed, its ability to manage that calcium storage gets, well, sloppy.
Sloppy calcium management sounds bad for joints.
It is. You get unwanted calcification. In joints, that means stiffness, maybe those painful bony spurs. So we've got a factory under stress, leading to bad protein folding and poor calcium control. That's the setup.
Okay, so here's where it gets weird. We have this stressed factory in the knee, let's say, but where does the help come from? It turns out these chondrocyte cells in your joints, they actually have receptors for bile salts. Bile salts. The stuff in your gallbladder that helps you digest fat, that seems completely random.
It seems random, but it's the perfect example of how interconnected the body is. It all comes back to your gut microbiome. See, your liver makes what we call primary bile, that's for digestion, but your gut microbes, they're like expert little chemists down there. They grab that primary bile and they chemically change it. They create secondary bile salts.
Huh. So we basically outsource part of our internal chemistry to the bacteria living in our gut.
We do, and these secondary bile salts they make are highly potent anti-inflammatories, very specialized. They actually get absorbed into your bloodstream, travel all the way to your joints, and act like a kind of protection detail. They help calm inflammation and keep that chondrocyte factory running more smoothly.
Wow. Okay, that suddenly makes sense of something I've heard. People who've had their gallbladders removed or maybe taken lots of antibiotics that wipe out their gut bugs, they often report getting joint stiffness or arthritis later.
Yeah.
It's like they lost their protection detail.
Exactly. They've inadvertently disrupted that vital supply line. And we have pretty solid proof of this connection with a specific agent called TUDCA. TUDCA is basically a synthetic version of a very specific bile acid. It used to be derived from bear bile, which tells you how biologically active it is, and its unique benefit. It specifically reduces that ER stress right in the protein folding factory.
Wait, hold on. You're saying we use a specific bile compound basically to fix protein folding in the joint cell. How strong is the evidence that this is the missing link?
It's pretty compelling. TUDCA shows the bile isn't just acting as a general anti-inflammatory out in the joint fluid. It's interacting directly with the cell's repair machinery, the ER. It's like it has the key to calm that stressed factory down.
That is, yeah, that's profound. Okay, so healthy bile salts manage inflammation and help the factory. Now let's circle back to that other problem, the sloppy calcium. If the ER is stressed, calcium goes where it shouldn't. You said we need like A traffic cop for calcium, vitamin K2.
Exactly. Most people know vitamin K1, that's for blood clotting. K2 is totally different. Its main job is directing calcium. It makes sure calcium goes into hard tissues like your bones and teeth, and crucially stays out of soft tissues like your arteries and your joints. If you're low on K2, calcium can build up in the joints, creating the spurs osteophytes.
And here's that irony that always gets me. Warfarin, the blood thinner. It blocks K1 to stop clots.
But it also blocks K2 as collateral damage.
Right, so you're taking it for your heart maybe, but it could actually be increasing calcification in your arteries and joints because it fired the calcium traffic cop.
It's a really unfortunate side effect, and it underscores why K2, which we get mainly from certain healthy fats like grass-fed dairy, egg yolks, natto, why it's so critical for joint health.
Okay, good. Let's shift gears a bit. From structural breakdown to more of an immune attack. Rheumatoid arthritis, RA. This is different. The immune system itself is lighting the fire and attacking the joints.
Precisely. It's an autoimmune condition. An immune system problem first, joint problem second. And when you have that kind of immune fire, you need a serious fire extinguisher. For RA, standard vitamin D doses, they just won't cut it. You need large therapeutic amounts. We're talking minimum 20,000 IU daily, often more like 30,000, 40,000 IU, maybe even higher in some protocols. That's the level needed to get a significant anti-inflammatory immune modulating effect.
That sounds like a lot of vitamin D. Is that safe? Why such a high dose?
Well, the rationale is that at those levels, vitamin D acts less like a typical vitamin and more like a hormone or even a mild steroid, modulating the immune response, calming it down. But crucially for safety, these high doses must be taken with cofactors. Magnesium, zinc, and especially K2 are non-negotiable. K2 is vital to make sure all the extra calcium you absorb, thanks to the D3, goes into your bones, not your arteries or kidneys.
Got it. Cofactors are key. Okay, besides the autoimmune trigger for RA, what about food triggers that create like physical gunk in the joints? You mentioned these things called AGEs, advanced glycation end products. That just sounds bad.
It is bad. AGEs are basically these sticky inflammatory proteins. They get formed when you have high sugar, high glucose mixing with protein in your body. So think high carb meals, lots of sugar. That chemical reaction happens, and these sticky AGEs circulate and gunk up the joints, causing chronic inflammation. It literally ages your tissues faster.
Sticky proteins. Lovely. And now for the really bizarre one.
Yeah.
The mouth joint axis, like your teeth affecting your knees.
It sounds crazy, but yes. Researchers have found bacteria hiding out in joint biofilms.
Biofilms. That's like a protective slime layer where bugs hide out.
Exactly, often with a calcium shell for extra protection. And sometimes the DNA of these bacteria in the joint biofilm matches bacteria found in infected root canals or chronic gum infections.
So it's like a leak. An infection from your mouth travels through the bloodstream and sets up camp in your joint.
That seems to be the mechanism. A low-grade chronic infection leaks pathogens into your system. They find a place to hide in the joint, protected by biofilm, and just keep fueling low-level inflammation. Shocking, right?
Yeah, the body's definitely talking to itself, even if it's bad news travel.
It really is. So, okay, if we need to fix the ER factory, get the bile flowing right, manage calcium, calm the immune system, we absolutely have to stop doing the things that sabotage all that.
Right. Let's get into the saboteurs. The 7 main culprits actively trying to wreck the joint factory and block that bile salt protection detail. Fire away.
Okay, number 1, emulsifiers. Things like polysorbate 80. You find them in ice cream, creamy salad dressings, lots of processed foods. Why are they bad?
Because they mess with the gut lining and the microbiome.
Bingo! They directly disrupt the gut barrier and harm the very microbes, those chemists, that are supposed to be making your anti-inflammatory secondary bile salts. Chemist down, protection gone.
Nasty. Okay, saboteur number 2. Low-fat soy protein powder. I see this pushed everywhere as healthy. What's the joint connection?
Well, first, it's often highly processed, sometimes using solvents like hexane. But specifically for joints, soy protein is naturally low in an amino acid called taurine. And taurine is absolutely essential for your liver to make good, strong bile. Plus, if you're eating low-fat anything, you're not stimulating bile flow properly, so you end up with weak bile, stagnant bile. Recipe for joint issues.
Gotcha. 3, refined seed oils, like canola, soybean, corn oil. People argue about omega-6s, but you highlighted the processing. Why is that the real killer for joints?
It's not necessarily the oil itself in its raw, cold-pressed state, though the omega-6 ratio isn't great. The big problem is the high heat used in refining and especially repeated heating, like in deep fryers. This extreme heat creates toxic breakdown products called aldehydes. These aldehydes are nasty little molecules, highly reactive. They damage joints directly, damage arteries, damage mitochondria. It's chemical stress.
Okay, number 4, alcohol, particularly beer you mentioned.
Yeah, beer is rough because it's high in purines, which directly lead to the uric acid crystals that cause gout. Painful stuff. But really, all alcohol puts significant stress on the liver. And remember the connection. Anything that seriously harms your liver function is going to ripple outwards and contribute to systemic inflammation, including in the joints.
Makes sense. Number 5, casein A1 protein. This is the main protein in most conventional dairy, from typical grain-fed cows. What's wrong with A1 versus A2?
The way A1 casein digests, it breaks down into a peptide fragment called BCM7, which acts a bit like an opioid and can be quite inflammatory for a lot of people. It seems particularly problematic when it's concentrated, like in protein powders or in things like processed cheese slices. Sodium caseinate is often used there. A2 milk from specific breeds or goat and sheep dairy don't have this issue.
Interesting. Okay, number 6 is a big one. Modern wheat. You said it's a triple threat. Amylopectin A, WGA, glyphosate. Break that down simply.
Right, it's a combo punch. First, amylopectin A. That's a superstarch in modern wheat that spikes your blood sugar even higher and faster than table sugar. Hello, AGEs and inflammation. Second, wheat germ agglutinin, or WGA. This is a lectin, a sticky protein in wheat germ that binds to your gut lining and can increase gut permeability, leaky gut, lets inflammatory stuff into your bloodstream.
And the third hit, glyphosate. That's the herbicide they spray on it to dry it out before harvest, right?
Exactly. Glyphosate has been shown to act like an antibiotic in the gut, damaging the microbiome. And as we've established, if you wreck the microbiome, you lose those crucial secondary bile salts. So, modern weight hits your blood sugar, your gut lining integrity, and your bile salt production. It's a joint disaster package.
Wow. Okay, finally, number 7, high fructose corn syrup. The big one.
Yeah, this isn't just sugar. It's an industrial, often genetically modified synthetic sweetener. It hits the liver incredibly hard, driving inflammation and insulin resistance. A key danger is that your body metabolizes fructose differently than glucose. There's less of an off switch. So it's easy to overload the system, leading directly to metabolic chaos and systemic inflammation.
That is a depressing list of common foods actively working against our joints.
Okay, enough doom and gloom. Let's pivot. The solution, the joint repair kit. What do we need to add in?
Okay, the rules are pretty straightforward. Support that chondrocyte factory and rebuild your team of microbiome chemists.
First up, gotta feed those chemists, so fermented foods. Yes. Sauerkraut, kimchi, kefir, real Bulgarian yogurt. You need to actively cultivate the microbes that produce those anti-inflammatory secondary bile salts. Second, you absolutely need healthy fats.
Why fats again? Seems counterintuitive for health sometimes.
Because fat is the only thing that strongly stimulates your gallbladder to release bile. Healthy fats are crucial. Olive oil, avocado oil, fish oils, grass-fed butter, ghee, fatty nuts, even some high-fat cheese. No fat, no bile flow. Bile gets thick and stagnant. No secondary bile salts get made or delivered. Simple as that.
Okay, makes sense. Third, especially if there's any autoimmune angle like RAA, you need high vitamin D3.
Therapeutic dosing, we're talking 60,000, 80,000 IU, maybe more for active flare-ups, but always with the cofactors. K2 and magnesium are essential to manage the calcium safely. And speaking of anti-inflammation, fourth, load up on omega-3s, fish oil, cod liver oil, fatty fish like salmon.
Fifth, joints need building blocks. You mentioned sulfur foods?
Yep, cartilage requires sulfur for its structure. So onions, garlic, leeks, chives, and cruciferous veggies, broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, cabbage. Think smelly vegetables. Sixth, collagen. Bone broth is king here.
Why bone broth specifically? Can't I just eat, like, more steak for protein?
Steak is great, but it's mostly muscle protein. Your body needs a lot of collagen, maybe 30% or more of total protein intake for really effective connective tissue repair. Steak is maybe 2-5% collagen. Bone broth or collagen supplements provide those specific amino acids in the right ratio that joints desperately need.
Good distinction. And finally, a point often missed. Keep iron levels in check.
Yes, especially for men or women who aren't menstruating. Excess iron is highly inflammatory. We don't have a good way to get rid of excess iron, unlike other minerals. So watch the supplements. Maybe avoid cooking everything in cast iron if your levels tend high. It can act as a pro-oxidant, fueling inflammation.
Okay, so wrapping this up, if you take one big idea away from this deep dive, it should be this. Your joint pain isn't just random grinding bone or bad luck. It's very likely a breakdown in that tiny protein folding factory, the ER, deep inside your cartilage cells. And that breakdown is driven by things like weak bile, a stressed-out microbiome, and calcium going rogue. And almost all of that is heavily influenced by common, everyday foods and industrial ingredients.
It really is a powerful example of how interconnected everything is. Diet, gut health, liver function, cellular mechanics, all playing out in your joints. It leaves you wondering, doesn't it? If the health of your teeth and how well your liver makes bile are actually required just to keep your knee from aching. Well, what other seemingly disconnected parts of your body are having these constant silent conversations that we haven't even begun to fully map out yet?